Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Atmanexus. I'm your host, Sid, and today we are diving into episode 7, one of the most relevant conversations of our time. But before we begin, I want to ask you all something. Have you ever looked at someone and decided who they were within the first 5 seconds? Or have you ever heard one side of a story and unknowingly made the other person the villain? Or maybe have you ever believed a rumor only to discover later that the truth was completely different? Or perhaps have you been the one who was misunderstood, labeled, judged, without anyone ever trying to know your story? Like, if any of these questions touched you or you have experienced it, then today's conversation is for you. And today we are exploring a subject that quietly shapes relationships, workplaces, families, friendships, and even our spiritual journey. Pause before you pass judgment, from gossip to grace. In a world where opinions travel faster than facts, where social media rewards outrage, where one screenshot can define a person's identity, we have almost forgotten one simple human virtue: to pause. Because sometimes the greatest act of intelligence is not having an opinion immediately, it's having the humility to wait. Joining me once again is someone you've all come to love through our conversations, my dear friend Jude. Welcome back to Atmanexus, Jude.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you.
So, Jude, why do you think our minds are so quick to judge? Is judging natural, or have we simply trained ourselves to become judgment machines?
I think for the mind, being judgmental comes naturally because, for the mind, we subconsciously are comparing everyone else to ourselves. We are our own point of reference, and everyone we meet and have an interaction with, we are consciously or unconsciously comparing them to ourselves because our experience and our opinion in that context is all that we have. So it's natural for the mind to judge and compare others relative to ourselves. I think nearly everybody, I've never met anyone in my whole life who is not judgmental or quickly forms opinions about other people, whether those opinions are correct or not. I think that being judgmental is a part of human nature.
I find this quite fascinating, and yeah, you're right. We all judge at some point of our life, and I think judgment is quite easy. That's why we quickly judge, whereas understanding actually requires a lot of patience and perseverance. So for that we feel why to just think so much and just let's take this thing as it appears. I think our brain constantly looks for shortcuts. Psychologists call them cognitive biases. Instead of gathering all the facts, our mind fills in the missing pieces using assumptions. Because it's energy efficient, but it isn't truth efficient. As always, I give the example of the Bhagavad Gita. It reminds us that our perception is colored by the three gunas we have, like sattva, rajas, and tamas. We don't merely see reality, we see reality through the condition of our mind, which means often we aren't judging others, we are projecting ourselves onto them. So that brings me to another thought, like most gossip begins with, "Did you hear what happened?" It feels quite harmless when you just listen to this line, "Did you hear what happened?" But is gossip actually damaging us more than the person we are talking about, Jude?
I don't think gossip ever leads anywhere good. I think sometimes talking about other people can help us deepen our understanding of ourselves, and we can learn from other people, and we can learn from other people's lives and experiences. We can learn from them, but it serves no higher purpose to judge, condemn, criticize, or complain about them. Just gossiping in a negative way because it makes you feel good, to me, I don't think that is helpful.
Absolutely. There's an old saying, like you must have read it somewhere. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, whereas small minds they discuss people. And I feel these words are quite powerful. And if we talk about the research, it consistently shows that negative gossip it actually reduces the trust within the groups, and it increases anxiety, insecurity, even the workplace conflicts. And if we see it from the spiritual point of view, the Buddha spoke of right speech. Before speaking, he said we should ask three questions: is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I have often read these three questions written at a lot of places. And imagine if every WhatsApp message, every office conversation, every family discussion passed through these three filters. The world would be a very different place. We have spoken in previous episodes about conditioning. Could it be that we are not judging people, we are actually judging our own programming? What's your take on this?
I think that everything we see is not reality. It is a reflection of our level of consciousness. It is a reflection of what we harbor within us, determines what we see outside of us. So yeah, whenever, the way I look at it myself is, whenever I judge another person, as fast as I can, I try to then come back. I try to catch myself when I'm doing it and realize that that judgment is not true. That is actually a pair of lenses through which I am experiencing reality. Me judging another person, yes, is a projection of something that I believe within myself, that it has no truth outside. So in a roundabout way, to answer your question, yes, any judgment I have of others is a projection of something, that a belief that I hold within myself.
Yes. And it's all, I feel, the conditioning. And this reminds me of a very simple example. Like if a child grows up hearing people from this community can't be trusted, rich people are selfish, men never cry, these beliefs they become invisible software. And years later, that the child who became now an adult, he believes they are thinking independently, but they are simply repeating the inherited conclusions. If I talk about Ashtavakra Gita, it repeatedly reminds us you are the awareness behind all conditioning, not the conditioning itself. So now let's just flip the question. Being misunderstood hurts. How do we respond without becoming bitter?
You have to stay open and not take what the other person is saying personally. Even see it as an opportunity to learn. And actually, I think it takes huge humility to actually embrace that, yeah, I might be wrong about this. Or this person may have a completely different perspective. Or through having this dialogue with somebody else, I may actually change my belief or what I think of whatever, in whatever capacity it is. I think it takes openness and humility and the strength and vulnerability to admit that, yeah, I was wrong, or you've really helped me, or that I can change. And I think all of this is connected to everything we talk about on every episode, right? When we have judgments and opinions that are fixed, our mind becomes very rigid. It becomes very small. Whereas we can only expand and evolve as we open and as our mind expands. I almost see it metaphorically as like a balloon that grows and inflates. And yes, so when you're listening to somebody and what they're saying is making you feel in your body bitter, angry, resentful, like you want to bite, like you want to defend your judgment or your opinion on the matter, become aware of that feeling within yourself. You need to become aware of that feeling within yourself and then pause. Because if you just act out the feeling that's bubbling up inside you, that is your conditioning acting through you. The only way you can break the cycle is to become aware and to pause in that moment. And if you pause, you have the opportunity to respond in a new way that you've never responded before in that moment.
Beautifully explained, like pausing and then reacting and becoming aware. So it actually makes you think before you react. And one of my favorite reminder also comes from the Stoic philosophy, if you've ever heard of it. People don't react to who you are. They react to the story they have created about you. That's their reality, not necessarily yours. So if you know who you are, you don't need to win every misunderstanding, I feel. Sometimes silence is stronger than explanations. And sometimes dignity speaks louder than defense. So compassion, it sounds beautiful. But what does it actually look like? Like on an ordinary Tuesday morning, if someone cuts us off in the traffic, or a colleague snaps at us, or our partner becomes distant suddenly. So, how do we practice compassion then in certain situations, Jude?
I think the first thing is to become aware of your initial response. Like maybe somebody cuts you up in traffic, and I'll use this as an example. Somebody cuts you up in traffic and you get huge road rage. You start beeping your horn, you start shouting, you start swearing and cursing that person. That's one example, right? A second example, somebody cuts you up in traffic, you get super angry and you chase after their car. You completely forget what you're doing or where you're going, and you just become fixatedly angry about this car that's cut you up, right? That's two examples. Or third example, somebody cuts you up in traffic, you recognize a little bit of anger bubbling up within you, you take a deep breath and you pause and you forget about it and you carry on with your day. That's the same situation, but three completely different responses. And it's in the pause. It is in the pause that determines how you respond to that situation. The only way you can control the pause is by deepening your inner connection through the practice of meditation. Meditation is how we work with these invisible forces. Because if I want to get good at running, I can go running all the time. If I want to get bigger muscles, I would lift loads of weights. If I wanted to change my physical body and lose weight, I would eat less. These things are very simple, very, very simple. But changing the invisible forces, changing our subconscious programming, changing our unconscious responses to things which we have done for decades, this is a completely different skill. And this is something that isn't really taught. I don't know anyone, I've never had it, I've had to learn all this stuff myself. No one's ever been teaching it to me. It's not common knowledge in the societies I've lived in. But it's like, for me, that is real transformation. It's not sexy. It's not big things. But actually, when you notice in yourself that when somebody cuts you up in traffic, that your response is different now to how it was a year ago, for me, that is real personal transformation.
Yes, yes. I can relate with you on this. Like, you can only feel it if you practice and feel it within yourselves. You cannot just learn it from somebody. It's something you realize yourself and work on your own accord without an external force acting. Yes, people can come as an accelerator, or they can just guide you at certain places of your life, but you have to choose this path by yourself. And we were talking about compassion. So perhaps compassion isn't agreeing with everyone, it's just remembering everyone you meet is carrying a battle you cannot see. Like, there can be a rude cashier, the angry parent, the silent friend, or very common, the demanding boss. Maybe they are all not difficult people, they are just exhausted people. And grace begins when assumptions end. Like, if someone listening to all this today says, I genuinely want to stop judging people. So, Jude, what advice would you give them? Where should they actually begin if they want to stop judging people?
Yeah, I would firstly say good luck. And then I would say it is a journey, not a destination that you arrive at. And it's like, when I came to India, I came to India looking for spiritual teachers or enlightened human beings or the Buddha reincarnated. And I met lots of amazing teachers and spiritual teachers and yoga teachers. But even they are judgmental. They admit openly that they are judgmental, that they judge others. But every time they judge others, they do not see it as a failure within themselves. They see it as an opportunity to become more aware, to remove that judgment, to remove that pair of lenses. The way I view it, I find really helpful, is to imagine that, you know, when you go to the opticians and they put all the different lenses in to test what lenses you need, I imagine that I've got like 10,000 lenses in front of me that are blurring my experience of reality. And I see that every time I become aware that I'm judging anyone or anything, when I become aware of it, I almost see it that I'm taking that lens out. So maybe I can see a little bit closer to true reality. And I think that the path to becoming less judgmental is the path of becoming more aware. And I think that meditation and conscious practices like yoga, Tai Chi, somatic movement therapy, conscious massage, conscious breathing on your own. Awareness is this thing that can be practiced in every moment, whatever you're doing. It really doesn't matter. You can wash up the dishes and observe your mental chatter about washing up the dishes. That is the practice of awareness. You can be going for a walk that you've done 1,000 times, but maybe you've done it 1,000 times just unconsciously. And then if you go on that same walk and you just focus all your attention on the breath, your experience of that walk will be a completely different experience. So I would say that the way to become less judgmental is to become more aware. So there's no focus on being less judgmental. The focus is just on becoming more aware and more self-aware.
I really liked and I really agree with what you said. And I also like the example of the lenses you gave. And Jude, once I met a person, like, I was just discussing this, we often judge, and I also judge a lot of times. And when I introspect, when I sit, so I realize that it was not required and it was not necessary, and I was not right many times. So then I was discussing this topic with somebody a few months ago. So he told me that there is a practice of 3 breaths. Like before reacting, take 3 conscious breaths and ask yourself, what facts do I actually know? What assumptions am I making? And what has to be done here? So, that tiny pause, if you take, it can prevent years of regret because reaction is quite automatic, whereas compassion is intentional. So, moving further, Jude, if everyone listening today remembered just one sentence, one principle that could genuinely transform relationships, what would you want it to be, Jude?
The way out of suffering is awareness.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jude. So, can you sum up this whole conversation in few words? Like what we talked about and how can we come out of it?
The way to become less judgmental and the way out of suffering is awareness. And awareness is not something that you can touch, it's not something that you can explain, it's not something which you can intellectualize, it's not something that you can understand or grasp with the mind. The more you think about awareness, the more confused my mind becomes. Awareness is something you embody and that you live. That is what I would say to conclude this conversation.
The older I grow, the less interested I become in being right now. The more interested I become in understanding. Perhaps I feel that's what maturity really is. Not collecting opinions, but actually dissolving them. And the truth is, every person you meet is a universe in itself. And no universe can be understood in a single conversation, let alone a single glance. So before you judge, just pause. Before you react, listen. And before you spread a story, seek the truth. And before you label someone, remember someone once misunderstood you also. So let's replace gossip with curiosity. Instead of assumptions, we should have questions. Instead of judgments, we should just try to understand the other person. Because compassion doesn't make us weak, it makes us profoundly human. And if today's conversation made you pause, my dear friends, so just even for a moment, so share it with someone who may need this reminder. Until next time, keep questioning, keep awakening, and above all, keep returning to the quiet awareness that exists beyond opinions, labels, and judgment. This is Sid and Jude signing off from Atmanexus. We'll see you again in next conversation. Take care. Namaste.